Ms. Shenoweth?
Present.
Mr. Hayes?
He's here. He's here.
Ms. Pat?
Present.
Mr. Whalen? Ms. Wyman?
Here.
Mayor Satterthwaite?
Here. Mr. Whalen called earlier and said he's not going to be able to attend the meeting tonight. First item on the agenda this evening is approval of the minutes of the previous meeting. Is there a motion?
Move approval. Second.
Motion and a second. Any discussion? Any additions or corrections? Seeing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Any additions or corrections to the agenda this evening? Go into petitions and communications. First, before we go to members of the audience, I have a proclamation to read here. If Chris Zionic would come up from Illinois Department of Employment Security. This is a proclamation to hire a veteran this month, and I'll go ahead and read it and then present it to Chris. It reads, whereas whenever called upon to defend our national security at home or abroad, the men and women who serve in the U.S. Army, Navy, Marines, Air Force, and Coast Guard have responded immediately and effectively, placing the national interest above their own. And whereas of the more than 48 million of these citizen soldiers who have served the United States of America, more than 1 million have made the ultimate sacrifice by giving their lives, and another 1.5 million have been wounded. And whereas today our men and women in uniform daily put their lives at risk, seeking to secure the blessings of freedom and liberty for the oppressed people around the globe. And whereas in 1944, when President Franklin D. Roosevelt signed the GI Bill into law, he observed that more than anything else, American servicemen and women wanted the assurance of satisfactory employment upon their return to civilian life. And whereas today's veterans desire the same economic opportunities as their forebears and bring to the modern workplace the benefits of skills, education, leadership, maturity, and dedication learned in the military service. Now, therefore, I, Todd Satterthwaite, Mayor of Urbana, do hereby proclaim November 2004 as Hire a Veteran Month in the city of Urbana, Illinois, and encourage all businesses in our community to provide employment opportunities to those who have served in the armed forces. Chris, thanks for getting this proclamation. First, I guess, is Carl Hill, 1913 Trails Drive on the tax rebate program. I'll go ahead.
Thank you. My name's Carl Hill, 1913 Trails Drive, Urbana. Good to see you again. Tonight, I hope, is the night that we can extend that rebate program one more time. There were a couple questions brought up at the committee meeting concerning about how many units yet to be developed in the serviceable area, and we're looking at somewhere between 2,000 and maybe 2,200. We have, at a current rate, probably about 10 years left. So if you wanted to extend the tax rebate program for 10 years, that's fine with us. Also, something was mentioned a while back about possibly coming up with a program for commercial development. So if I can encourage someone to maybe further investigate that, or if we can work with you to see how that might help in our development of retail, etc., for Urbana, we'd be happy to do that. Thank you.
Okay, any questions for Mr. Hill this evening? Any other petitions and communications from members of the public? Council members? Okay, we'll jump right into the agenda this evening then. We have no old business, so we'll go to reports of standing committees. We have a report from the Committee of the Whole. Ms. Pat?
Yes, thank you,
Chair right
Mayor
now?
Satterthwaite. The first item is Resolution Number 2004-11-023R, a resolution extending the Urbana tax rebate program for 2 additional years to December 1st, 2006. For the committee, I so move.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? Discussion, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That motion carries. Ms. Pat?
Thank you. Ordinance number 2004-11-143, an ordinance approving an amendment to a City of Urbana Community Development Block Grant Subrecipient Agreement, Center for Women in Transition, project number 102-02. For the committee, I so move.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? Being no discussion, will the clerk please call the roll?
Ms. Chenoweth?
Yes.
Mr. Hayes?
Yes.
Ms. Pat?
Yes.
Ms. Wyman?
Yes.
Motion carries with 4 ayes. Ms. Pat?
The next item is ordinance number 2004-11144, an ordinance approving a second amendment to a City of Urbana Community Development Block Grant Subrecipient Agreement, Disabled Citizens Foundation, project number 304-06. For the committee, I so move.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? No discussion on this item. Will the clerk please call the roll?
Ms. Chenoweth?
Yes.
Mr. Hayes?
Yes.
Ms. Pat?
Yes.
Ms. Wyman?
Yes.
Motion carries with 4 ayes. Ms. Pat?
Thank you. That's it for tonight's business. The next meeting of the Committee of the Whole will be on Monday, November 22nd at 7:30 p.m. here at 400 South Vine Street.
Okay, thank you. Reports of officers, just have a couple of items. One is you all were invited to the Lincoln Square press conference a couple weeks ago when they rolled out their presentation of the redevelopment of Lincoln Square to Lincoln Square Village. They're having basically what's called an open house this weekend. That'll be in conjunction with the first indoor market, the farmers market, the market at the square. So that presentation for the Lincoln Square Village will be at 9 and 11 o'clock. There'll be 2 presentations in the mall. So anybody that's interested in seeing a public presentation of the plans for Lincoln Square Village, I encourage you to come to the mall 9 or 11 on Saturday, right here in downtown Urbana. And as I said, the market in the square will be indoors in Lincoln Square Mall, and I believe that starts at 7 o'clock in the morning. So there'll be quite a lot of activity in Lincoln Square this Saturday. Any other reports of officers? Yes, Mr. Gray?
One announcement, Main Street will be closed Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday between Learman Avenue and Cottage Grove to repair the railroad crossing near Silver Cup. Long overdue. So tomorrow the detour route will be Cottage Grove south to Washington, east to Learman, north on Learman back to Main Street. So we've notified in person the businesses along that area, but hopefully the press will get this out to the folks too. But Main Street, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, barring any adverse weather, what have you, should be done by Thursday night.
Okay, thank you. This is an ordinance approving a major variance to allow a 22.5% increase in the maximum permitted floor area ratio to construct a new church annex at 806 and 808 West Michigan Avenue in the R2 single-family and R3 single and two-family residential zoning districts. This was ZBA case number 04-MAJ-14. Mr. Lindell?
Thank you. These are actually 2 combined cases with 2 ordinances. One is a request for a major variance, and the second is a request for a special use permit, both by Twin City Bible Church at 808 and 806 West Michigan Avenue. The Urbana zoning ordinance development regulations by district state that in both the R2 and R3 zoning districts, the maximum permissible floor area ratio is 0.40. Twin City Bible Church is located on those 2 lots, one zoned R2 and one zoned R3. Therefore, they're requesting a major variance, again, to allow a 22.5% 22.5% increase in the permitted FAR from .40 to .49. On October 20th, the Zoning Board of Appeals voted unanimously to recommend approval of the request to increase the floor area ratio to .49. The related case is a special use request, 1910 SU04, request by Twin City, for a special use permit to establish a new church or temple use at 808 and 806 West Michigan Avenue. The Urbana zoning ordinance table of uses states that a church or temple is a permitted use in the R2 single family and R3 single and two family residential zoning district. Again, permitted only as a special use. By removing two existing houses at 808 and 806 West Michigan Avenue, the church intends to remove the old houses to make way for the construction of a new annex structure. The new annex structure will have, again, a slightly larger floor area ratio than currently permitted in the R2 and R3 zone. And also, because it is a church use, they will require a special use permit. Currently, they've been using the two houses at the existing sites for about 25 years, and by demolishing the existing houses, they'll lose any claim of legally existing nonconformity. Let's see. The council has the option with, let me get this correct, with Ordinance 2004-11146 to grant the variance, with conditions, or to deny the variance, and staff recommends approval of the variance. And as recommended by the Zoning Board of Appeals. And for the other ordinance, 2004-11147, in the case of special use permit 1910 SU04, staff recommends City Council approve the proposed permit with the following conditions: that the special use approval is contingent upon the ability of the petitioner to obtain a major variance approval from the ZBA to increase the maximum allowable floor area ratio. Number two, that the project shall conform to all other City of Urbana engineering, building safety, and zoning ordinance regulations. Number three, that the design and site layout of the church shall be in general conformance to the plan submitted with the memo. Number four, that the petitioner maintains a policy to minimize excessive through trips due to lot full situations during services and events. Number five, that no additional signage or external lighting along the south and east frontages beyond that required for traffic control or safety shall be permitted. Number six, that the exit driveway to Michigan Avenue shall be separated from the existing driveway to the east, and landscaping shall be planted within the separation. And number seven, that parking lot lighting shall be installed so as to minimize spillage onto adjacent properties. I'll answer any questions if we have any.
Okay, any questions of Mr. Lindahl at this time?
If it's okay with council, I move that we pass both these ordinances in omnibus fashion for discussion, purpose of discussion.
So you want to just be able to
Move both of them.
Second.
First one was the one that I read. The second one, just to get it into the record, is an ordinance approving a special use permit, a request for a special use permit to establish a church in the R2 single family and R3 family residential zoning district at 806 and 808 West Michigan Avenue. It's plan case number 1910-SU-04. Ordinances moved in omnibus fashion. Ms. Pat?
Thank you. First, I want to thank the folks at Twin City Bible Church for all of the efforts to cooperate with the neighbors, to bring them into the discussion. And I think the fact that there's no one here speaking against this is testimony to your fine work in bringing everyone together. And I was happy to see on the special use permit case the proposed conditions and the fact that the church agreed to them, because I think this is what will make it work. but I do have two questions I'd like to ask the petitioner, if that would be all right.
Sure. Who's here representing the petitioner? Okay. If there's no objection from the council? That's fine. Okay, if you'll take the seat. Go ahead,
Jim
Mike.
Miller,
Okay.
architect.
Thank you. The one condition, mostly I would just like to know so I can explain if anyone asks me. It says the petitioner maintains a policy to minimize excessive through trips due to lot-full situations. How, what is the policy, and how will those trips be minimized?
Currently, the parking lot behind this proposed building is an existing parking lot, which has been used for the handicapped and elderly for, I suppose, 20 years. And there is a large sign that says out in front, only for the elderly and for the handicapped. And that's a matter of 12 to 15 people. And so no one else, they know, they've learned over time that you don't go in there because that's for the elderly and for the handicapped. And they're very respectful of that. So actually we only have one 10-foot road going in and out at the moment. And it's manageable even with that. We're proposing in consultation with the engineers, an in and out. So that's why the question came up. They were worried that, you'd have other people coming and running around to see if they could find a parking place, but that won't happen.
Good. And the last question has to do with parking lot lighting. It says the lot lighting will be installed so as to minimize spillage onto adjacent properties. The lot looks pretty well lit right now. What changes are proposed for the lighting?
It would only be just low-level lighting near a parking lot that may be a little bit dark now. In other words, it'd be a short light so that the elderly or the handicapped would be able to maneuver. But in terms of major lighting, that won't happen because it's fairly well lit.
But you do plan on installing a few more low lights?
Yes.
Are they, excuse me, you're the architect, are they in the plan now, or
No,
is that not?
they're not in the
Okay.
plan, but they're part of the intention.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Yes.
Okay, any other questions or discussion?
Yeah, I also have a question for the petitioner, actually. And I know that this may not seem to be specifically relevant to the Plan Commission, to the cases before us, but in terms of some of the concerns that have been brought up on emails to me, it would be helpful to know about kind of long-term strategies for neighborhood preservation. What will the cost be to demolish the two homes? Do you know?
We have an estimate of approximately $10,000.
For both homes
For both.
in conjunction?
Yeah.
Okay. That's all. Thank you.
Just want, from Mayor, if I could have clarification, the motion includes the Plan Commission recommendation of those 7 conditions on the special use permit? Is that correct?
But my interpretation of first one, the major variance, there are no conditions, and then the 7 conditions in the special use permit.
Thank you.
Other discussion? I'd just like to, again, as Ms. Pat said, thank the petitioners for their work with the neighborhood, and also to compliment you on the design. I think that's a big part of the approval process, and maybe things have made it as possible for you, because it looks like the design is sensitive to the neighborhood and that it fits in as well as possible, that a church annex could fit into that existing residential area. You've got a lot of features that match some of the features of the houses on that block and in blocks nearby. And so in addition to all the other compliments you've received on the process, I'd like to thank you for the sensitive design to the neighborhood as well. Thank you. So, well, any further discussion? If there's no further discussion, will the clerk please call the roll?
Ms. Chenoweth?
Yes.
Mr. Hayes? Ms. Pat?
Yes.
Ms. Wyman?
Yes.
That motion carries with 4 ayes, and with that, there's no further business to come before us this evening, and we